Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight, we're going somewhere far beyond time. Back to an age when the night itself was divine. Find a comfortable place to rest. Close your eyes. And let me take you back to a world where sleep wasn't just rest. It was a sacred doorway leading straight into the realm of the gods. Tonight, we'll explore the complete history of sleep in ancient Greece. From the gods who ruled the dreams to the mortals who sought healing in their sacred temples. From prophetic visions whispered by Hypnos and Morpheus to the ancient rituals of the dream healers at Epidaurus. Imagine this. You're lying on a cool stone bed inside a temple. The stars shimmer above the marble columns. Crickets sing softly in the distance. The faint scent of herbs drifts through the midnight air. It's the year 400 BC. You've come here seeking healing through sacred sleep, the bridge between body and soul. And as you begin to drift away, I'll tell you the story of how sleep itself was born and how it shaped the ancient world. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. But only if you truly enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know, where are you listening from tonight? Tell me your time and location down in the comments below. Now, take a deep breath in. Exhale slowly. And let the story begin. From the dawn of time, when the gods first gifted sleep to humankind. In the beginning, before dreams, before even the dawn itself, there was night. Her name was Nyx, a silent, shadowed goddess whose presence even Zeus feared. From her womb came two brothers, Hypnos, the god of sleep, and Thanatos, the god of death. They were twins, but not identical. Like dusk and dawn, they shared the same light, yet carried opposite destinies. Hypnos ruled the borderlands between life and dream, the place where thoughts melt into silence. Thanatos, his brother, waited just beyond that border, quiet, patient, eternal. And between them flowed a river, Lethe, the river of forgetfulness. Those who drank from Lethe forgot their past lives, their pain, their name. Deep in the underworld, beyond the gates of eternal night, lay the cave of Hypnos. No sunbeam ever entered there. The walls dripped with eternal twilight, and the air shimmered with the dust of dreams. Around his bed grew poppies, red and black, flowers that whispered drowsy lullabies to all who approached. Even the gods feared to disturb his rest. Only one river ran near his cave, Lethe, murmuring softly so that even souls might forget their pain and drift into peace. And when Hypnos exhaled, the world grew still. Mortals closed their eyes,
Kings forgot their crowns, and even warriors dropped their swords. The power of Hypnos was gentle, yet absolute. Yet not all dreams were his alone. From him were born the Oniroi, the spirits of dreams. They were countless and shifting like mist, each carrying a story, a face, a forgotten hope. Their leader was Morpheus, the god who shaped dreams into forms men could see. When he touched a sleeper's eyes, the dream became real, as vivid as daylight, as fragile as dawn. The realm of Hypnos was a paradox, silence that spoke, darkness that comforted, oblivion that healed. His was not the death of Thanatos, but its reflection, a small rehearsal for eternity. Sleep and death, brothers who walked different paths, but met in the same shadow. One closed your eyes for a night, the other for forever. One night, even Zeus, king of all gods, fell under the power of sleep. The story goes that Hera, weary of her husband's arrogance, sought the help of Hypnos. "Let him sleep just long enough for me to teach him humility," she whispered. Hypnos hesitated. For the last time he had dared to close Zeus's eyes, lightning nearly burned his wings to ash. But Hera promised him a throne of gold and the hand of Pasthea, goddess of rest. So Hypnos agreed. He flew silently to Olympus, spreading a dust finer than moonlight upon Zeus's eyes, and for the first time in ages, the thunder slept. The world below exhaled in relief. Storms calmed, seas softened, mortals dreamed without fear. While Zeus slept, Hera wove her schemes, and the gods learned how even the mighty must bow before sleep. When Zeus awoke, the skies trembled, but Hypnos had already fled to his cave beneath the world. There, surrounded by poppies and shadows, he rested once more beside his brother Thanatos, and together they watched over humanity, one giving sleep, the other eternal rest. So when you close your eyes tonight, remember, it is Hypnos who gently pulls the curtain between you and the waking world. His touch is not death, but mercy, a promise that even chaos must rest. And if within your dream you see wings of silver brushing against the dark, know that Hypnos is near, guarding your peace. Sleep then, child of the modern world. Let the echoes of ancient myths carry you away. The gods still whisper in the silence between heartbeats, and tonight they whisper your name.
There was a belief among the ancient Greeks that every night, when humans drifted into sleep, their souls quietly left their bodies, not forever, just for a while. Like birds released from a cage, they wandered into the invisible world that lies between life and death. To sleep was not to vanish, but to travel. And this journey fragile and mysterious, was seen as a sacred passage, a moment when mortals touched the edge of eternity. The philosophers of Athens often spoke of this. They said the soul, when unchained by the senses, could see truths hidden from waking eyes. In dreams, men could visit the gods, speak to ancestors, and glimpse what awaited beyond the veil of life. The temple priests, who tended the altars of Asklepios and Apollo, believed dreams were divine letters, messages carried by Hypnos himself, sealed with silence and delivered at midnight. To the Greeks, sleep was not merely rest, it was revelation. They imagined the world divided into 3 realms: the land of the living, the realm of dreams, and the kingdom of the dead. Between these worlds stood a single threshold, guarded by the twin brothers, Hypnos and Thanatos. When you slept, you crossed that boundary, but only for a time. Death was when you crossed it and never returned. That is why the Greeks called sleep the little death, a gentle rehearsal for eternity. Each night, as one laid down, it was said that Hypnos approached, soft-footed, winged, carrying a touch lighter than air. He would place his hand upon your forehead and guide your soul through the dim corridor that led toward the underworld, but not all the way, only as far as the dreams could reach. Sometimes these journeys were peaceful, fields of golden wheat, voices of loved ones lost, or the laughter of gods by the sea. But sometimes the road curved too close to the realm of Thanatos. That was when people awoke gasping, their hearts pounding, whispering that they had seen death in a dream. For in Greek thought, the border between rest and forever was a thread thinner than breath. Plato wrote that the soul during sleep was released to roam, freed from the heavy chains of flesh. Aristotle believed dreams were the echo of divine thought, where reason rested, but the spirit spoke. In that silence, humanity became weightless, both fragile and infinite. The Greeks built temples called Asklepieion, where the sick came not for medicine, but for dreams. They would sleep upon sacred skins, believing that Hypnos would visit them in the night, whispering cures, visions, or forgiveness. These incubation sleeps were sacred rituals, a way to let the divine hand touch the mortal heart. Even in their myths, the connection between sleep and the underworld ran deep. The cave of Hypnos was said to be near the gates of Hades itself. The river Lethe, the stream of forgetfulness, flowed past his door. Souls waiting to be reborn came to drink from it, forgetting who they were, so they could begin again. And as mortals slept, they too tasted that same forgetting. Each dawn they awoke reborn, lighter, cleaner, emptier of yesterday's sorrow. That was the mercy of sleep. It did not erase the past, but it softened it, turned pain into mist. To sleep was to let Hypnos smooth the creases of the soul, one dream at a time. The ancients spoke too of guardians, spirits who watched over sleeping men and women, keeping them safe as their souls wandered. Some were kind, the agathos daimon, spirits of fortune and goodness. Others were shadows, feeding on restless hearts sent by jealous gods or forgotten curses. That is why the Greeks prayed before sleeping, not just for rest, but for safe passage through the night. "My Hypnos hold me gently," they whispered. "May Thanatos walk far away." They burned poppies at their bedside, the flowers of Hypnos, and placed small coins beneath the pillow, offerings for Morpheus, so that their dreams might be kind. A light breeze through an open window was believed to guide the soul back into the body at dawn, for no one should wake before their spirit returned. In their language, to wake suddenly was to return from Hades. It was said that those who died in their sleep had simply wandered too far, that Hypnos had led them hand in hand into the land of his brother and had not brought them back. And so sleep became both comfort and caution, a holy surrender, a reminder that rest is not weakness, it is participation in the divine rhythm of existence. To sleep was to join the gods in silence, to practice the art of letting go. Every breath in sleep, every flicker of a dream was a miniature death and a miniature rebirth. And when dawn returned, so did the soul, humbled, renewed, carrying the faint perfume of eternity. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine yourself standing at that sacred threshold. The air is still, the river hums, the wings of Hypnos rustle in the dark. He does not demand anything from you, only trust, for sleep, like love, only opens its arms when you surrender. Let your thoughts dissolve. Let the noise of the day fade. The gods are still watching as they always have. And in this small act of closing your eyes, you too are stepping, gently, fearlessly, into the sacred night.
When the sun sank behind the marble hills of Athens, and the sky turned the color of olives and wine, the world began to quiet. The marketplace stilled, the torches of the Acropolis flickered, and across every home, doors were drawn closed. For the Greeks, night was not a time to fear, but to return to the silence within. Inside a modest home, beyond the courtyard and its small altar to Hestia, lay a chamber known simply as the Thalamos, the sleeping room. It was not large, for life then was lived outdoors, beneath the sun and the gods. Yet within this small chamber, the ancient Greeks performed their most sacred act of daily life, surrendering to sleep. At the heart of the room stood the kleine, the ancient Greek bed. To the untrained eye, it seemed simple: a wooden frame, 4 legs, a woven base. But to the Greeks, the kleine was a symbol of dignity, class, and protection. In wealthy homes, it was made from carved cedar or bronze, its legs shaped like lion claws or serpent tails. In the houses of common men, it might be oak, ash, or even humble reeds. Sturdy, plain, but still honored as the vessel of dreams. Over the kleine was spread the stroma, a mattress stuffed according to fortune.
For the rich, feathers from geese and swans layered over wool. For the poor, straw, dried reeds, or sometimes seagrass from the Aegean coast. Yet every sleeper, no matter their station, wrapped themselves in linen sheets woven by hand, cool in the summer, thickened with wool in the winter. The wealthy might decorate their bedding with embroidered borders, meanders, waves, or olive branches stitched in gold thread, while commoners relied on simple woven patterns, geometric and proud. For sleep was the one realm where kings and workers met as equals. When the eyes closed, the soul no longer knew wealth. The cline was never placed facing the door. To sleep in direct line with an entrance was thought to invite wandering spirits, shades of the dead, or jealous daimones. The Greeks believed that during sleep the soul was most vulnerable, half detached from the body, and so the bed was positioned diagonally or against a wall, where Hypnos might find you, but Thanatos could not. A small lamp burned low on a clay stand near the bed, fueled by olive oil, scented with myrrh or thyme. The flame symbolized the presence of Hestia, goddess of hearth and home. It was said that as long as a flame remained, the soul could find its way back at dawn. Beside it, a shallow bowl of water reflected the dim light, placed there to trap wandering dreams and prevent nightmares from escaping into the waking world. The air in a Greek bedroom was heavy with the smell of earth and linen, olive oil and night flowers. Through narrow windows, one might hear the cicadas still whispering from the fig trees, or the soft steps of a slave checking the last embers of the courtyard fire. For men and women, sleep was not shared as freely as today. In noble homes, men often slept in their andron, the men's chamber, while women and children rested separately in their gynaikonitis. This was not coldness, but respect for sacred boundaries. The male domain belonged to conversation, drinking, and philosophy. The female domain to nurture, weaving, and dreams. Yet in both, the same flame burned, and the same poppy hung in a clay pot above the door, the mark of Hypnos protection. Some said women dreamed more vividly, for they lived closer to the rhythm of birth and the moon. Others claimed men dreamed deeper, for their lives touched war and silence. But every Greek agreed that to sleep was to visit the gods, to wash away the dust of the day and return to what was eternal inside. Children were taught to bow their heads before lying down, whispering, "Hypnos, guard my eyes until dawn, and let no shadow cross my dreams." Even slaves, whose days were filled with toil, found dignity in rest, for sleep belonged to no master. It was the only moment when the poorest man and the mightiest general breathed the same air, equal in their stillness. Sometimes, before bed, families burned small herbs, mint, sage, or laurel, believing the smoke carried their prayers to the divine. The mother might sing softly, her voice blending with the hum of the olive flame, her children drifting off as the scent of thyme folded through the room. And in that small chamber,
Whether made of marble or mud brick, the same mystery unfolded each night, the soul's gentle departure, the mind's quiet dissolution, the silent conversation between man and God. Because to the Greeks, sleep was not an escape from life, it was part of it. They did not flee from darkness, they entered it reverently. Each night was a ritual, a return to the womb of Nyx, the mother of night, where all things rest before being born again. So, if you could walk into that ancient room now, you would not see wealth or poverty. You would see peace, a lamp, a bed, a folded cloth. You would smell the same olive oil, feel the same air from the Aegean drifting through the shutters, and you would understand sleep was never about closing one's eyes, it was about opening one's soul. So tonight, let the memory of that ancient bedroom cradle you. Imagine your body resting upon the Kleine, wrapped in linen, your breath sinking with the sea beyond. Let the soft flame of Hestia burn in your heart, and know that just as it was then, so it is now. The night welcomes you home.
In ancient Greece, night was not the end of the day. It was a ceremony, a slow descent from the world of motion into the world of silence. As the last fires dimmed and the olive lamps flickered, families prepared themselves for the sacred act of rest. To sleep, for them, was to enter the realm of gods, and no Greek dared do so without ritual. Each home began with light. The father or eldest son would carry a clay lamp to the household altar, usually a small shrine to Hestia, goddess of the hearth. There they offered a few drops of olive oil, whispering words of gratitude for the day's warmth, for the bread we ate, for the breath that remains. The flame was sacred, for it mirrored the eternal fire that burned in every temple across Greece. Then came the evening prayers, gentle words to Hypnos, Morpheus, and even Thanatos. For respect was owed to both sleep and death. The family bowed their heads and spoke. Hypnos, bring soft dreams. Morpheus, shape them kindly. And Thanatos, let your shadow stay afar. For the Greeks, prayer was not fear, it was relationship. Sleep was not a right, but a gift, a trust given by the gods each night and reclaimed each dawn. After prayer came offerings. Beside the bed or the doorway, families left small symbols to guard their sleep. A bowl of milk and honey, sweet food for wandering spirits. A sprig of laurel, Apollo's leaf for purity. A clay figure of Hypnos or a carved poppy head placed beneath the pillow. These gifts were not superstition, they were gratitude. The Greeks knew the night was full of unseen life, and they honored it, not out of fear, but respect. There was a deeper ritual, too, one of protection. In villages by the sea, mothers would draw small circles of salt near the threshold of the bedroom to keep away the thieves of souls, as they called them, shadows that lured dreams away before dawn. Salt, they believed, bound the soul to the body, keeping it safe as it wandered. The elders spoke of another danger: night whispers. These were thoughts that came when the mind was tired and the heart was unguarded. Regret, jealousy, fear. To defend against them, people recited verses from old hymns, steadying their minds the way sailors steered through storms. In the mountains, shepherds would hang bells near their doors, not only to scare off animals, but to remind Hypnos that he was welcome. The soft chime in the wind was a song for the god of sleep, an invitation to enter peacefully. Inside the home, the family arranged themselves in quiet symmetry. The youngest slept closest to the hearth for warmth and protection. The elders slept nearest the door to guard the threshold from both spirits and strangers. Between them, peace flowed like breath, unbroken by noise. Children were lulled by songs, lullabies that carried the weight of centuries. Some were prayers disguised as melodies. Sleep, my child, under the eyes of the stars. Let the moon watch. Let the sea guard your dreams. Others were gentle lessons about virtue, kindness, and fate. Even kings must sleep. Even gods must dream. So close your eyes, little one, and let the world rest. These songs were sung softly, without instruments, only the rhythm of a mother's voice, the heartbeat of home. They were not just songs for sleep, they were carriers of culture. Through them, children learned who they were, what the world was, and that every night was a return to the divine. Among the Greeks, women were the keepers of these songs. They wove them into the rhythm of life, at birth, at rest, at death. The lullaby was considered sacred, for it carried both comfort and prayer. Its words could bless a house, calm a storm, or ease a fever. The melodies changed from island to island. In Crete, mothers sang of the moon as a shepherd of dreams. In Sparta, they sang of strength, urging their children to rest so they might wake fierce and fearless. In Athens, the songs were philosophical. Rest is wisdom, my child, for only still waters reflect the sky. Fathers, too, played their part. Before lying down, they would check the locks, secure the doors, and trace a small cross of oil over the lintel, a symbol of faith, drawn long before Christianity, but carrying the same spirit, the mark of divine watchfulness. When all was ready, the household fell silent. The last lamp dimmed to a soft ember. The smell of olive oil mixed with myrrh filled the air. And one by one, the members of the home surrendered their breath to Hypnos. It was said that in that hour, the space between prayer and dream, the gods listened.
The air grew thicker, as if time itself paused. Even the cicadas seemed to lower their song, giving way to a hush that felt holy. And as the house slept, something unseen passed through, the blessing of night itself. The poppies leaned toward the window, the flame flickered once, and a peace older than memory settled across the room. In the morning, the ritual reversed. The father relit the lamp, thanking Hypnos for safe passage. He would whisper, "We have returned, and the day is ours again." Such was the Greek way, to live with reverence, to sleep with gratitude, and to wake with purpose. They understood that rest was not escape, but communion, that every night was not darkness, but a bridge, from the mortal to the eternal and back again. So tonight, as you lie in bed, remember the ancient ritual. You are not alone in the dark. The gods have always been watching. Let your breath become your prayer. Let your silence be your offering. And let the night, as it once did in Greece, bless you gently, endlessly, with peace.
To the ancient Greeks, sleep was not only a spiritual passage, it was also an art. They believed that the body's position during sleep mirrored the soul's direction in the afterlife. Every posture was a prayer, a message to the unseen world. And so, they treated even the way they lay down at night with quiet reverence. Before sleep, most Greeks would rest on their left side, a position they believed pleased Hypnos. It was said that the left side aligned the heart closer to the earth, grounding the spirit and easing digestion. Physicians from the school of Hippocrates advised it too. They taught that when a man slept on his left, his stomach emptied properly, his blood flowed smoothly, and his dreams were gentle. Sleeping on the right, however, carried warnings. Philosophers wrote that to lie on the right side was to face the moon, the realm of visions and madness. They said it tempted Morpheus to send too many dreams, or worse, nightmares born from the restless depths of the mind. On the right, one poet wrote, the soul wanders too far and wakes unrefreshed. It might sound superstitious, but for them, posture was more than comfort, it was cosmology. The human body, they believed, echoed the harmony of the universe. Left and right, light and shadow, heart and reason. To favor one side too long was to disturb the balance of nature itself. Still, not all Greeks agreed. In the medical schools of Kos and Cnidus, young healers debated endlessly. Some said that the gods did not care how men slept, only how peacefully they lived. Others argued that posture could reveal one's moral state. The humble curled inward, the arrogant sprawled out like kings. In common homes, superstition ruled. Mothers told children never to sleep flat on their backs, lest the soul mistake the open sky for the afterlife and drift away. To sleep face down was seen as a sign of guilt or fear, the posture of liars, they whispered. Even soldiers, hardened by war, avoided sleeping on their stomachs, believing it drew the gaze of Thanatos, who waited for those too still to wake. Some rural villages held simpler wisdom. They said that a good night's sleep was one where you awoke facing east, toward Helios, the sun god, who renewed life each morning. To wake with the sunrise meant your dreams had been accepted by the gods. Your spirit had returned from Hypnos unscathed. The philosopher Democritus, who spent his nights gazing at stars, taught that comfort was not indulgence, but alignment. The soul, he wrote, rests best when the body lies as the heart desires. To him, there was no single correct position, only the one that brought harmony between flesh and thought. Still, Greek physicians sought logic behind myth. They observed that digestion worked best on the left, that breathing was easier with the right shoulder slightly raised. Pregnant women were told to sleep facing the earth, a gesture of protection for the child within. The old slept half-sitting, believing it kept nightmares at bay. Some of these customs survive even now, though their gods have faded. Science has replaced myth, yet much of their wisdom endures. For comfort and ritual, as the Greeks knew, are not enemies, but allies. Their beliefs about posture also mirrored their beliefs about life, that balance, not rigidity, was divine. Too much comfort was decadence. Too much hardship was pride. The wise sought the middle, the posture of peace. In art, the Greeks even portrayed gods sleeping. On painted urns and marble friezes, Hypnos reclines on his left side, wings folded, eyes half shut. His face is serene, his body curved like a crescent moon. Beside him lies Thanatos, identical but darker, sleeping in the same posture, as if to remind mortals that sleep and death were not enemies, but twins. For the ancients, to mimic the gods was the highest form of prayer. And so, each night, men and women adjusted their bodies not merely for comfort, but to echo divinity. They believed that how one slept revealed one's relationship with the universe, a silent dialogue between mortal and cosmos. Even the act of turning in sleep was meaningful. A restless sleeper was said to have angered the gods. A calm one, whose body barely moved till dawn, was a beloved of Hypnos. Mothers would peek in on their children, whispering small blessings, still as the moon, soft as the sea. There were, of course, skeptics. Philosophers like Epicurus laughed at the fear of posture, calling it a shadow's superstition. He argued that comfort was wisdom, that the body knows what it needs better than the mind does. Let the gods worry about heaven. We should worry about pillows. And yet, even Epicurus kept his bed facing east. For all his reason, he too wished to wake beneath the gaze of the sun. Perhaps that is the truth hidden in their myth. Not the posture itself, but the intention. The Greeks understood that ritual shaped the soul. To care about how one sleeps is to care about peace. The body's position was a language, a silent prayer offered to the night. So, tonight, as you rest, find your own posture of harmony. Whether you sleep on your left, your right, or curled like the ancient dreamers, let it be with awareness. Feel the ground beneath you, the same ground that cradled generations before. Let your heart slow, your breath soften, and your body align with the rhythm of the stars. Because sleep, as the Greeks knew, is not about stillness, it is about belonging. And when the morning comes, may you wake as they did, gently, gratefully, facing the light. The ancient Greeks believed that dreams were not random sparks of the sleeping mind, but sacred messages from the divine. To them, the night was not silence, it was conversation. And in that stillness, between breath and shadow, the gods spoke. They called dreams oneiroi, and they believed these ethereal messengers entered the human world through two gates. Homer wrote of them in the Odyssey, the gates of horn and ivory. From the gate of ivory came deceptive dreams, illusions spun from falsehood and vanity, the kind that flattered men or frightened them for no reason. But from the gate of horn came true dreams, visions that pierced the veil of the future, revealing what was yet to come. Ivory was smooth and shining, like false beauty. Horn was rough, translucent, a symbol of truth, for light could pass through it. That was how the Greeks explained it. False dreams are easy to admire, but true dreams let light through. Each night, they said, the oneiroi carried messages from gods, heroes, and even the dead. The trick was not to dream, but to know which gate your dream had passed through. Dreams ruled their lives. They decided fates, inspired art, and changed empires. Penelope, faithful wife of Odysseus, once dreamt of an eagle swooping down to kill her flock of geese. The eagle then spoke, saying, "I am your husband, Odysseus. The geese are your suitors." When she awoke, she knew her long wait would soon end. Alexander the Great, on the eve of conquering Tyre, dreamt of a satyr, half man, half goat, dancing upon the walls of the city. His seer, Aristander, divided the word satyrus into sa-tyros, meaning Tyre is yours. Alexander awoke smiling, certain of victory. And in Rome, centuries later, Calpurnia, wife of Julius Caesar, dreamt of his husband's statue bleeding from 100 wounds. She begged him not to go to the Senate that morning. He dismissed her fears and never returned alive. The Greeks recorded such dreams not as fantasies, but as divine warnings or gifts. Even before temples and oracles, there were dreams, the first medium between mortals and gods. Among the Greeks, dreams were classified. Some were theophrastic, messages from the gods. Some were somatic, reflections of the body's state, where fever or hunger shaped what the mind saw. Others were phantasmatic, mere fragments of the day's memories. But true dreams, oneiroi prophetiko, were prophetic. They could predict war, famine, love, and death. Dreams were not private. Generals consulted dream interpreters before campaigns. Politicians sought omens in their sleep. Even common families prayed for dreams of the dead to know if their loved ones had found peace. In this way, the Greek night was never empty. It was full of voices. Symbols were the language of those voices. A snake in a dream could mean wisdom, rebirth, or danger, depending on whether it bit or shed its skin. For Asklepios, god of healing, the serpent was sacred, but for others, it was deceit.
A bird symbolized freedom and divine message. When a falcon appeared, it was Apollo's sign, swift, bright, commanding. But a crow or raven whispered of fate. Water was the most complex symbol of all, clear when emotions were pure, turbulent when the heart was troubled. To dream of calm water was peace. To drown was to be consumed by desire or fear. Fire, too, was double-edged, destruction or transformation. A flame could signal divine passion, but also pride that consumed. And flight, oh, how the Greeks revered the dream of flying. It meant transcendence, ambition, or rebellion against destiny. To soar too high, they warned, was to become Icarus, the boy who flew too close to the sun and fell into the sea. Through dreams, gods reminded men of limits and possibilities. The philosopher Artemidorus of Daldis, who wrote The Interpretation of Dreams in the 2nd century, said, "Dreams are the mirrors of the soul. They reveal what we dare not admit by day." His scrolls, filled with thousands of dream accounts, became the first map of the human subconscious, long before modern psychology was born. To dream, for the Greeks, was to be visited, to be touched by something beyond reason. They did not question whether dreams were real. They asked only what they meant and why they had come. Before sleeping, they invoked Hypnos and Morpheus, saying, "Grant me not rest, but vision. Let me see what truth hides in shadow." In sanctuaries like the Temple of Asklepios, people would sleep upon sacred skins to invite such dreams. The ritual was called incubation, to lie still, waiting for a divine message. Healers interpreted what the dream revealed: a cure, a warning, a promise. For the Greeks, the soul did not dream, it traveled. It left the body, wandered among gods and ghosts, and returned before dawn, carrying fragments of eternity. They did not separate science and spirit as we do. To them, dreams were both medicine and mystery, both healing and prophecy. A general's campaign could depend on one dream. A marriage could begin or end because of one vision. A city could rise or fall because of one whisper from the gates of horn. So tonight, when you dream, remember, the ancients did not dismiss their dreams. They listened. They believed the gods still speak, softly, through the corridors of sleep. Maybe, just maybe, they were right.
Listen closely. The wind moves softly between marble columns. Somewhere in the distance, a night bird calls. The stars glimmer above ancient stones. And you are standing at the gates of the Asklepieion of Epidaurus, the most sacred healing sanctuary of the ancient world. Here, sleep itself was the medicine. They called it the Temple of Dreams. It was not merely a hospital, but a bridge between the mortal and the divine. The god of healing. Asklepios was the son of Apollo, god of light and medicine, and a mortal woman named Coronis. Before he was born, a raven carried to Apollo the news of his mother's betrayal. In anger, Apollo struck her down, but before her body burned, he saved the child from her womb. That child was Asklepios, born of both fire and mercy. Apollo gave him to the centaur Chiron, the wise teacher of heroes. Under Chiron's care, Asklepios learned the secrets of the forest, the healing herbs, the pulse of the earth, the rhythm of life itself. But Asklepios was not content with mending wounds. He sought to understand the mystery of death. They said he listened to the silence of graves, and from it learned how to wake the sleeping. He healed the blind, cured the lame, and, in whispers, even raised the dead. But that act defied the order of the cosmos. Zeus, fearing that man would forget mortality, struck Asklepios with a bolt of lightning. And so the healer died, only to be reborn as a god. From that day, temples rose in his name across Greece, but none as magnificent as the one in Epidaurus. The sanctuary of Epidaurus. Nestled deep within a valley of pines, surrounded by birdsong and the hum of cicadas, the Asklepieion stood like a city of serenity. No one arrived here by accident. Pilgrims came from across the world seeking cures for the body and solace for the soul. The sanctuary was vast. A theater stood at its heart, so perfectly designed that a whisper on stage could be heard in the highest row. The Greeks believed that beauty itself was part of healing. Music, laughter, and harmony prepared the spirit before the dream. Nearby, a sacred spring glimmered beneath moonlight. Here, pilgrims washed away the dust of their journeys. They drank the cool water to cleanse their inner selves. Beside the spring rose the great Abaton, the sleeping hall, 70 meters long, built of limestone and silence. It was said that within those walls, men met gods. The air was heavy with the scent of myrrh and thyme. Oil lamps flickered along the colonnades. And carved upon the temple walls were stories of the sick who slept and awoke healed, of blind men who saw again, of women who conceived after years of prayer.
The ritual of incubation. Healing at the Asklepieion was not a quick act, it was a pilgrimage. Every visitor followed the same sacred process, known as incubation, to sleep in the temple and receive the god's guidance through dreams. Day 1. Purification. The first day was for cleansing. Pilgrims bathed in the holy spring. They fasted, no wine, no meat, to quiet the body. They prayed to Apollo, to Hygeia, and to Asklepios, offering honey cakes or small figurines shaped like the limbs they hoped to heal. Priests examined each visitor, not the body, but the heart. Only those with faith pure enough could proceed. Day 2, Preparation. On the second day, pilgrims wore white robes, symbols of purity. Barefoot, they walked the marble paths toward the Abaton, guided by the flicker of torches. At sunset, priests recited the stories of miracles, of a man cured of paralysis, of a woman freed from nightmares. The stories soothed the mind, filling it with hope. Then came silence. The pilgrims meditated, breathing in the scent of burning herbs. They laid their hands upon their chests and whispered their prayers. May the God enter my dream. May I awaken whole. The Night of Healing. Inside the Abaton, the air was cool and still. Each sleeper lay upon stone benches or sheepskins spread across the floor, soft, faintly warm from countless sleepers before them. The hall was nearly dark. Only the soft light of oil lamps glowed along the aisles. Somewhere in the shadows, the sacred snakes of Asklepios, harmless, gentle creatures, slivered across the floor. To feel one brush against you was a sign of blessing. In the far corner, temple dogs rested. If one approached and licked your wound, it meant the god was near. Then came the moment of surrender. The pilgrims closed their eyes, and the priests whispered a final prayer. Let Hypnos open the gates. Let Asklepios speak through dream. And they slept. Some dreamt of light, a warm radiance touching their wounds. Others saw the god himself, tall, calm, holding a serpent-wrapped staff. He spoke not with words, but with presence, a feeling of peace so deep it dissolved pain. In those dreams, some were told what to do, to change a habit, to forgive someone, to drink from a certain spring. Others simply awoke healed. The temple walls, carved with hundreds of such stories, called them iatromata, the miracles of sleep. The dawn, interpretation and gratitude. When dawn came, the priests moved quietly through the Abaton, waking the sleepers with soft chanting. Each pilgrim recounted their dream to the temple scribes. The priests interpreted the visions. If you saw water, bathe again in the spring. If you saw fire, burn the old herbs, begin anew. If you saw a serpent, healing is already within you. Afterward, the pilgrims offered thanks, wreaths of laurel, jars of honey, or small tablets carved with their story. These were placed on the temple walls, a library of gratitude. And then they departed, lighter, calmer, somehow changed. The Asklepieion stood for centuries, part hospital, part cathedral, part school of the soul. Here, medicine and divinity walked hand in hand. The Greeks did not separate science from spirit. To heal the body was to heal the heart. Even today, if you stand among the ruins of Epidaurus, you can still hear the echo of sandals on marble, the whisper of the pines, the faint murmur of water through stone. And if you listen closely, perhaps you might still feel the presence of the god of sleep and healing. Listen closely. The night is silent, except for the wind brushing through the pine trees of Epidaurus. Somewhere beyond the marble walls, the cicadas fade and the stars shimmer above the ruins. You are standing in the ancient temple of dreams, where the sek once came not for medicine, but for sleep. Because here, sleep was the cure. Carved into stone tablets, still visible today, are stories, miracles that happened inside these very walls. Each word cut into marble by trembling hands of gratitude, each letter a whisper from the past. Here I slept, and here I was healed. A. True healing stories from Epidaurus. Story 1. Ambrosia of Athens. There once was a woman from Athens named Ambrosia. Blind in one eye, she traveled for days across dust and wind to reach the temple of Asklepios. She bathed in the sacred spring, fasted, prayed, and entered the abaton, the sleeping hall of the god. That night she dreamed of Asklepios himself, tall, calm, his staff shining like moonlight. He approached her and touched her eye. With a gentle hand, he opened it and poured in a divine salve. She felt warmth, like sunlight under her eyelids. When dawn came, she awoke and saw. The first light she ever beheld was the flame of the temple lamp. Tears of wonder fell as she whispered, "I have seen the light." To thank the god, she offered a silver plaque engraved with her story. It still stands, faintly worn by time, bearing her name, Ambrosia of Athens, healed by the god through sleep. Story 2. Aristogara of Troezen. Aristogara had suffered for years a parasitic illness that no physician could cure. She traveled to Epidaurus, slept in the abaton, and prayed for a dream. But that night, no vision came. She returned home disappointed, certain the god had not heard her. Yet that same night, her son, far away, dreamed of Asklepios. The god handed him a small bowl of herbs and honey and said, "Give this to your mother." The boy awoke, gathered the herbs he had sown, mixed them with honey and wine, and offered them to her. She drank, and within days she was healed. Her stone inscription ends simply, "The god healed me, even in my absence." Story 3. The Man Who Could Not Speak. For 3 years he had no voice. No doctor, no healer, no priest could help him. He came to the temple and slept among hundreds of others. That night, Asklepios appeared and asked, "If I restore your voice,
"What will you offer me?" The man replied in the dream, "10 bulls, my lord." At dawn he awoke and spoke. His first words echoed through the marble hall. "Thank you, O healer!" The priests smiled, for they had heard his promise. He fulfilled it, and his story too was carved into stone. Story 4. The Woman Who Carried Life for 5 Years. There was a woman who had been pregnant for 5 long years, but could not give birth. Desperate, she came to the temple and lay in the abaton. In her dream, Asklepios appeared, glowing with golden light. She asked, "Can you give me a son?" The god smiled and said, "I will heal you, but the gift is not mine to name." When she awoke, she felt sudden pain, and within hours she gave birth to a healthy daughter. She offered the child's swaddling cloth to the temple and whispered, "The god kept his promise." B. The methods of dream healing. The miracles of Asklepios followed patterns, rituals that joined the physical, the spiritual, and the psychological. They were not random. They were a system, a sacred medicine of the night. Type 1. Surgery in dreams. Many patients reported that Asklepios performed surgery upon them in sleep. They saw him with gleaming hands, opening wounds painlessly, removing arrows, tumors, or broken bones. When they awoke, their bodies were healed, without scars, without pain, without infection. The temple inscriptions list dozens of such operations of light. Each one begins with the same words, "He came to me in the night." Type 2. Sacred prescriptions. Other patients received recipes for remedies. In their dreams, Asklepios handed them bowls of herbs, thyme, rosemary, myrtle, mixed with honey, olive oil, and wine. When the patients awoke, the priests helped prepare the medicine exactly as described. Those who followed the dream's instructions recovered swiftly. Modern science might call it herbal pharmacology. The Greeks called it divine guidance. Type 3. Lifestyle transformation. Some dreams contained no herbs, no magic, only wisdom. Asklepios would say, "Rise early and walk the fields. Eat from the earth, not from excess. Forgive, and your pain will fade." These were not medical orders, they were moral ones. Patients changed their diet, exercised in the temple gymnasium, bathed in the mineral springs, and listened to music in the theater, where sound itself was medicine. Type 4. Indirect healing.
Then there were the mysterious healings. Some claimed that sacred snakes slithered across their wounds during sleep, or that the temple dogs licked their eyes and brought back sight. When they awoke, they remembered nothing, only peace and the absence of pain. To the Greeks, it was proof. Asklepios had come.
C. The psychology behind miracles. Perhaps, just perhaps, the true power of the temple lay not only in the gods, but in the mind itself. The ancient priests might not have known the word placebo, but they understood its soul. Belief can heal. The power of faith. In Epidaurus, faith was medicine. The air was sacred. The rituals were precise, slow, deliberate, designed to lift the spirit beyond fear. When people believed they would heal, the body followed. Expectation became transformation. The release of stress. Far from the chaos of city life, the sanctuary offered peace. Pine forests, clean water, bird song. Silence itself was therapy. Anxiety melted into ritual. Rest replaced worry. When the heart calmed, the immune system strengthened. The body began to remember how to mend itself. The power of deep sleep. Modern science now knows what the ancients felt. In deep sleep, cells regenerate, hormones rebalance, and memories reshape. The Greeks had no term for REM sleep, yet they knew that vivid dreams healed the soul. They trusted Hypnos to open the gates, and Asklepios to step through. The art of suggestion. Each night before sleep, pilgrims listened to the priests retell the miracle stories, softly, rhythmically, until the conscious mind drifted away. Those stories planted hope deep within the subconscious, and the dreams that followed were shaped by that hope. Proof that the mind can become its own physician. The reality of herbs and rituals. Many of the herbs described in the dreams truly had healing properties. Myrrh as antiseptic, thyme for the lungs, olive oil for wounds, honey for infection, wine as a cleanser. Their medicine was both mystical and practical, a harmony between body and belief. D. The legacy of Asklepios. Even after 2,000 years, the wisdom of the temple endures. The Greeks saw healing as a triangle: body, mind, and spirit. Modern medicine
has begun to rediscover that ancient truth. The symbol of medicine. The serpent coiled around the staff of Asklepios remains the universal emblem of healing. It is used by the World Health Organization, by hospitals and medical schools worldwide. A reminder that true medicine began not with pills, but with compassion. Sleep therapy. Modern science now confirms what the ancients practiced. Sleep heals. From depression to trauma, therapy begins with rest. Hospitals design quiet rooms, regulate lighting, and study dreams as part of treatment. Asklepios would smile, his sanctuary reborn in laboratories and clinics. Mind-body medicine. The Greeks never separated mind from flesh. Today, meditation, yoga, and mindfulness echo their old rituals, restoring harmony between thought and body, reducing stress, boosting immunity, and inviting peace. Healing architecture. Modern hospitals now borrow from Epidaurus. Open courtyards, gardens, water, and sunlight. Nature itself is a physician, and architecture becomes part of recovery. Archaeologists have found more than 300 Asklepieion across the Greek world. In Epidaurus, Kos, Pergamon, Corinth, Athens, Delphi. Each one a sacred space between dream and medicine. Stone tablets still bear the names of those who were healed. Bronze instruments, small statues of snakes, and jars once filled with herbs still rest beneath the soil. And if you walk there tonight, in the ruins of Epidaurus, you may still feel something, a quiet hum beneath the earth, as if the God of healing has never left. Perhaps he hasn't.